Did I miss anything? You wanted it 2 hours from now, or do you want to go now?
It doesn't really matter. If you want to go ahead and do it now, we can do it now. Would that be better for you?
Sure.
How's the volume on my end? Is it coming through okay? Is it too loud?
No, nice and loud.
Okay. I got a video recording thing set up here, so I think it's working. I tested it a couple times earlier. I think we're good.
All right. Did you see my Twitter battles? I just tried to sign on again under purchased Twitter accounts, and as soon as I identify myself as Swarthy Immigrant, they get banned.
I saw your thing on Gab last night talking about how you bought those accounts and you were gonna scale the walls of Troy, but I didn't see what happened.
Well, they were all fine for 24 hours. I left them as is. As soon as I changed it to Swarthy Immigrant, boom, it got suspended.
So I mean, I don't know. Does this happen to other people, or is there something about you?
Something about me, I think.
That is really bizarre.
Yeah, I have like a marketing. I have people in the marketing business because that's where I come from, and there was a they make money by making lists for people. They don't do anything. They do cold lists and whatever, and they told me that, and a few people know who I am because I do try to hide my identity, but they're like, hey, Swarthy Immigrant, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. Like, a skill order from you, if we find this account, we need to target, they send this out to people, target this account, swarm on this. Tell Twitter to ban this account, this and that. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, that's you, man. You keep your head down and shut up.
The craziest thing about that for me is I hang out with all these far-right people, and I see them post, some really outrageous shit, and sometimes they get banned for it or suspended, but I've never encountered anyone having any problems like this. And that,
because they want you guys out there. They don't want me out there. Right. They want the far-right. They want the, let's just say you guys shoot each other in the foot a lot, or it's true. The Overton window is... You guys are, if you're in the Overton window, they want you out there because the normie society says, look, these are these guys. But here comes an immigrant. Here comes that's against them. That scares them more. Because what's the term that the alt-right can understand? I'm a trader, but to them. I'm what they would call a race trader. I'm what the far right would call a race trader if I was hanging out with non-white people.
Right.
To their way of thinking, I am a class trader or a some sort of trader to their identity.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me scary. Plus, I'm not sure, but I think my tweets were good enough to be noticed and funny and know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I was...
That's why they had to shadow ban you, because they really didn't want your stuff getting out there. And, I checked a bunch of people, and you were probably the only one I could find of the people that I followed that they felt they needed to shadow ban. So that proved something was different going on there.
And I was banned so many times that I knew when that last shadow ban happened, and this is when you made that video.
Yeah.
I knew that the banning would happen, right? It happened. I became so in tune to their algorithm. I knew that after that, my time on Twitter would be gone.
Yeah.
I just knew it wasn't anything, it wasn't your video talking about me and people saying you should follow me. I knew as soon as I got that long shadow ban.
They had already decided what they were ultimately going to do.
Yeah, they just needed some sort of excuse or some sort of tweet that they can kind of point to ban me for good or something. Because at the end of the day, I know corporate enough that they need they need a reason to ban you that can hold up in court.
Right.
And I think I did one tweet where it was that Me Too. Remember that hashtag Me Too?
I do remember that hashtag.
And I did, Twitter banned me, hashtag Me Too. I was also banned like a sexual victim, something like that. So they can point to me, sexual victims or whatever. So I knew for good that's why they banned me. I knew that was the excuse they could link to ban me.
Yeah. So have you been
now?
back much since then? Yeah, I got it recording. I'm pretty sure it's working, but we'll have to hope for the best.
Yeah, if we're not, we could do it again. No problem.
Yeah. So have you been back since that time, or was this yesterday?
I just yesterday. I did. Okay. I have 12 accounts. Yeah.
Okay.
They're all up there. 3 of them were banned as soon as them with Swarthy Immigrant, some sort of Greek immigrant,
right,
or followed something that links to them to me, to identify them to me. It got banned right away. I was able to tweet some. I mentioned gyro in one. That fucking got me banned right there and then. It's something in their algorithm that says go after Swarthy. I even saw some guy who's not Greek get banned because he tagged himself Swarthy. So you know what? He might be it. Banned him too. So I got some poor guy banned because his name was Swarthy. I feel fucking horrible for that guy, but what can I do?
Yeah, he's not missing too much. I haven't been back in about 2 weeks. I was criticizing the dude, one of those rappers. Which one was it that got sent back to jail? I can't remember. Jay-Z was sticking up for him, and I said, they were a bunch of thugs and need to stop committing crimes if they don't want to go to jail. And I've been under a 12-hour suspension for about 2 weeks because I won't delete the damn tweet. And I've gone back and forth with their support staff, probably about 15 times, and they just keep sending me a form letter. They can't tell me which policy I violated because I never mentioned race or background or any religion or any of that kind of stuff. So
I never even. Well, there was times where I was outrageous.
Sure.
I'm trying to open up the, but it was outrageous in a comedic sense, kind of.
Sure.
Thing.
Yeah. Not like there's not plenty of people on the left that do that on Twitter, and nothing ever happens to them.
They do that more than I.
Sure.
That way, So, trying to open up your. You said some talking points. I don't know if you want to do that or not.
Yeah. So I just sent you a little bit of stuff that I had been thinking about, and I think we probably already got into it with the. I guess the first one would be the. We think that this kind of censorship is bad, and that Twitter shouldn't be doing it, or they shouldn't just be doing it to certain people. Rather, they should be having a consistent standard for everybody, rather than just the people they don't like. And the left usually comes back and says that Twitter and Facebook and Google and all these companies have the right to do whatever they want on their platform, and free speech only applies to the government, not censoring you. So I want to get your opinion about that.
Actually, I've been railing against that. Well, not railing, but I kind of saw it happen. Just to give a little background, I'm opening up with my other computer. I got like 20 computers here. Yeah, there's your talking points. All right, let's give my background. I'm going to give my background without giving too much information about me. I had a marketing. I went to public schools throughout the. I never went to a private school. It was, I came in as an immigrant to the United States. I did what all immigrants are supposed to do. I assimilated. I learned English. I went through public school, and I went through the CUNY system, the City University of New York. I graduated with a marketing career background, and that's what I've been doing. So maybe and I still read foreign news, and maybe because I have a marketing background, I can kind of see the official narrative that the media is pushing is, and what their angle is, and whatnot. I knew when Trump won, Trump winning is as close to the Arab Spring that happened over there is happening into the United States.
Sure. Suddenly,
the deplorables, which she wasn't kidding, Hillary was not kidding when she labeled you guys deplorables.
Mm-hmm.
There is an outcast in the United States. You are the great unwashed. It's not unique to the United States. There's always a subset of people that are not supposed to be listened to. You are it. Who you are, take whoever you are, be it nativists, be it nationalists, be it people who are suffering under globalism, so they don't like their jobs being exported overseas. Anyone who goes against the system, the establishment, you are the deplorables. You are listened to. Who counts? People on the East coast, do jobs that are sexy and in, like cyber jobs.
Right.
Every time a factory closes, what's the solution? Well, you got to retrain to learn computers or some bullshit like that. No, some 60-year-old guy working a machine all his fucking life isn't going to learn computer coding, you know? So whatever group that is, that's the deplorables. Now, me as an immigrant, I know our immigration system is broken. The way my family got a green card. I came in as a kid. They got a green card because there was jobs needing their skill set. So they weren't refugees. They were technically refugees because Greece had a CIA coup at the time that was collapsing.
Okay.
But they weren't refugee status officially. But I always kind of joke on the thing that I'm a refugee because I am actually. My grandparents were refugees from Asia Minor. They were fleeing Islamic persecution.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that before. Yeah, were they Cappadocians, or what city were they from?
They're from the Black Sea coast area.
Like Pontic?
Pontos and some other places.
Okay.
So they fled that. They got to Greece. Parents had to flee because of a CIA coup collapse. So they came to in other words, I'm an immigrant, third generation immigrant due to some war type situation.
Right.
So I'm in the United States with a green card holder. Came here because we had a skill set. We, as in my parents, had a skill set needed for jobs. It's funny when I tell my father tells me as soon as he got to the United States, he's like, and his job's in some factory in Albany. He's like, do I have to go to Albany or take this job? And they're like, no, you can do whatever you want as long as you come here. He's like, fuck that, I'm staying in New York City and open my own business, which is what he did. And he put the whole family through, you know. But I grew up in fucking deep poverty. I mean, never starving or anything. But I told the story on Twitter that I didn't see a movie until I was old, in my teens, that I had my own pocket money so that I could afford to see a movie. I mean, I had TV. We had a roof over our head. We were never hungry, but we didn't have all that other stuff. Even our TVs were like or something like that. I remember going through getting furniture off the street that people threw out.
Right.
Kind of thing. So I'm a self-made man kind of thing. So we come to the United States, and I'm seeing Trump talking about jobs being exported, and then we're bringing in dirt cheap labor that lowers the cost of labor down. I have a white-collar job at a Fortune 500 company. I'm in Madison Avenue, living life, which is what I think the wants me to do. They want me to identify. Well, you made it. You're one of us now. Why are you thinking like you were back when you were a poor guy? And aren't you an immigrant? You should support all immigrants. No, that's not the case. I paid my dues as an immigrant. I passed the test as an immigrant. I assimilated as an immigrant. I did all that you're supposed to do. I'm not asking that my ethnicity be recognized above other ethnicities. In fact, did you lie to me in school when you told me we're all part of this melting pot? Suddenly, and just to give you a background, sometime in college, I was a teacher. In other words, I did the corporate thing. I made book. I was good to go. I didn't need a job anymore. So I said I'll give back by becoming a teacher, right? So I'm a teacher. I taught in ghetto schools, ethnic community schools, like inner city schools.
In the city in New York.
Yeah, in Manhattan. As a student teacher, you need to be a student teacher before you finally get your full license. And just as I teaching, I get an offer to come back into the corporate world, which I took because, I like money.
Yeah.
So you're one of those offers you can't refuse. So I'm one of those guys that should not identify with Trump. But Trump won the area I live in Queens, which is heavily immigrant.
Okay.
Trump won Staten Island, which is made of people who are immigrant communities. We recognize that there's something wrong with our immigration community, but immigration was not the only reason I voted for Trump. In fact, it was very little it was way down on the scale. I mean, I don't mind him building a wall or anything like that. I supported Trump because he was an alternative to the establishment.
Totally.
He was against neocons. He was against wars, and all that. That the foreign policy change, which is when I started noticing them smashing him on Russia. They're not smashing him on Russia as a trade or anything. They don't want any détente with Russia. When détente used to be the cornerstone of American foreign policy with Russia. We were supposed to be time with, with Hillary, all that stuff. Neocons went ballistic, and Trump cut the ties with the neocons, which is something that he should get credit for. And I think Bernie voters realize that too, because I think the ones that are resisting this Russian narrative that somehow he's a traitor or anything are Bernie voters, because they see what's happening too.
Yeah, it's people like Lennon, right? I mean, he's a great example of somebody who was in that one camp, and then after the election, he saw what they were doing to Trump and said, you guys are completely fraudulent.
Not only fraudulent, but fucking dangerous.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
it's world. Russia can initiate a war with us if let's say we do something in Ukraine or something that the Russians don't like. They're gonna
like a coup.
Like a coup, but let's say we start giving them lethal weapons and special forces to help their forces fight. It's fucking ironic. The Ukrainian government half not neo-Nazi. It's it's basically the neo-Nazis that were allied with Russia, with Germany against Russia, because for whatever reason they're like a dominant part of, even though they're a minority, they're the militant minority. In other words, the majority kind of so scared of them that they kind of listen to them.
Yeah.
So ironically, the people that are attacking Trump for being nice to alt-righters, if we, I don't think alt-right exists. I think it's a label, not a movement. But if
that is correct.
If we take the alt-right to be neo-Nazi-ish or something, well, ironically, the same people that attack Trump for supporting torch-bearing neo-Nazis want to arm neo-Nazi militias in the Ukraine that actually do tiki torch marching ceremonies.
Yeah, and the pictures of John McCain supporting those people over there, I don't understand how anyone can't look at it and see how corrupt the establishment is. I don't know why John McCain has one voter anywhere that still supports him. That stuff is mind-blowing.
To me, I think it's the, and when I say establishment, I've developed my own internal theory, and that is, there is a deep state. And what is the deep state? Because it sounds like some sort of crazy thing. The deep state is the bureaucracy, the careerists, the bureaucracy. They don't change with administrations.
Yeah.
And I always give the example of other countries like Spain. Spain was part of the coalition that occupied Iraq with George Bush. They had an election. The left won.
You're right.
The left promised as soon as they won, they would withdraw troops from Iraq. They did it within a couple of months. Obama promised the same thing. As soon as he was elected, he just continued the program. He kind of drew down here. In other words, he had some flexibility to draw down here or there, but he was actually, I think he even mentioned it in an interview where he found his hands tied.
Yeah.
So there's a deep state, and they pretty much tell the president what to do. And that's, I think, what's happening with Trump with the Russia thing. It's designed to hobble him on foreign policy, prevent any sort of peace deals. Trump resisted, to his fucking credit, man. I don't know if I was in this place in Vietnam, he's like, look, I know everyone wants to attack me for being nice to Russia, but I just want good relations. It's a good thing. It is a good thing. Look it up. Professor Cohen had an interview, which he did on John Batchelor's show, and he pretty much said the same thing. To Trump's credit, he's resisting this effort, and he's saying, I'm still wanting good relations with Russia, because it's Russia. We don't want to fucking go to war with them.
If he was being aggressive with Russia, if he was being confrontational, then they would say, oh my God, Trump is trying to start World War III.
That has been the Democrat response for every Republican administration since Reagan.
Yeah.
Remember Reagan? Reagan, nuclear war starting Reagan?
Yeah.
The bombing of, starts in 3 Reagan, that kind of thing. That's been the Democrat. Suddenly the Democrats are the war hawks.
And they're doing the same thing on North Korea, right? Like every time he tweets something, they say, oh my God, he's going to start a fucking war. But if he's not trying to do that, then he's a collaborationist, right? So he can't win.
What angers me is everything Trump said regarding, like, oh my God, he's going to start nuking North Korea. Obama said the exact same thing.
Same shit. Exactly.
If you start war with us, we will wipe you out. In other words, if you use a nuke on us, we'll nuke you. Obama said the exact same stuff. George Bush said the exact same stuff. Hillary Clinton said the exact same stuff.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton said so many confrontational, aggressive things, and that's no problem. That's fine. She's one of our gals. She's okay. It's sick, man.
It is the hypocrisy. The thing I concentrate more on foreign policy is that's when you see the hypocrisy. On the domestic side, the way I see it is, I mean, I don't know how people don't see it. Maybe they do. On the domestic side, it sounds like there's some leeway. Like they don't give a shit. Whoever's running the country, the powers that be, whoever's running the country, they don't give a shit about abortion. They don't care how topsy-turvy is between pro-abortion and anti-abortion, taxes or not tax. In other words, on the domestic front, go wild, do whatever the fuck you want. As soon as you start challenging our foreign policy empire, that's when shit gets fucking scary and real.
So what do you think it is about foreign policy that they're so much more invested in rather than the domestic political issues? Have they got money tied up in a bunch of overseas stuff that they don't want to risk, or like what is it, the military industrial thing? Like what?
I think it's so complicated and it's so scary. It's got to be all that. You know, at one level it's if you one of the languages, if you study marketing, you notice repetition of language. One of the things you always hear is American. If something requires us to use force and we're not doing it, you always hear John McCain or somebody like him say American credibility is at stake.
Yeah, what the fuck is that, right?
In other words, America says something, the other side resists it.
Yeah.
The response is, well, now we have to attack them, or America's credibility is at stake. It happens again and again. How weak are we overseas? We have to actually threaten every time we have to do something. That sounds like we're a really weak country, that we only get our stuff through war. In other words, we're not persuasive. Our ideology is shit. They want us to go to war. In other words, they want us to threaten. It used to be called gunboat diplomacy. And if we don't do it, in our credibility, what credibility is at risk? Our gunboat diplomacy is at risk. Our risk that you don't listen to us or we will kill you is at risk. Because if we don't kill you, no one listens to Americans anyway. They don't hate us for our freedom. They hate us because we fucking kill them. Yeah. You know, I tell people, one of the stories I told on Twitter before I got banned, and I told it many times throughout my 24 accounts at this point that got banned, is one of the countries my father was exploring to go immigrate to was Libya, because he had Libyan clients. He was a tailor and whatnot, so he had Libyan like pilots or ship captains or whatever. They love my dad, and they wanted to sponsor him, because then Libya had this is the 70s. Libya had a program where they wanted to bring in foreigners into their country. That's how good Libya was under Gaddafi.
Gaddafi is like Assad. He's one of these guys that he's in a shitty part of the world, and he's doing what he can to keep a lid on it, and he's got to kill some people and torture some people, but they were prosperous. Like you said, they could bring people in instead of this fucking chaos that we get today.
A European was thinking of immigrating to Libya.
Right. Who's going to do that now?
Now, the reason my father didn't do it was because Libya then had a rule where if you want to start your own business, 50% of the business has to be owned by a native. So my father's like, I want to be my own man. I'm not doing that. Yeah. My father had another uncle that lived in Germany. He immigrated to Germany, worked in a factory. But Germany, you live like shit. Everyone, you work, you're never part of the society. You know, it's fun. You get money. It's near Greece, but it's really hard to be to start your own business in that socialist economy. It's not socialist. It's very bureaucratic.
Well, it's semi-socialist. I mean, it's like the third way type of thing where you have big state control and regulations and limited capitalism.
It is. I kind of view it as it's not socialism, but it's over in the United States, we mistake bureaucracy with socialism. We think socialism is taxes and bureaucracy. as socialism. Socialism is really the factory is owned by the government, kind of thing. There, it's very bureaucratic. If you start your own business, you have to pass all these laws. You have to have this much money in the bank to cover the employees you're going to fire. It's very bureaucratic. It's not socialism per se, but the end result is the government controls what you're doing. So at the end of but if you're an employee, it's great. My father didn't want to be an employee. He was his own man. He has his own business in Greece. The only place you can do that is the United States, and that's where we ended up. So I was going to live I keep saying, in an alternate timeline, Hillary Clinton got me killed.
Yeah.
Because here I am in Libya. I'm living my life in Libya I grew up there. I'm speaking Arabic. I'm maybe even married to a Libyan in America. And here comes fucking Hillary Clinton trying to kill Gaddafi and overthrows my society. Who's going to be targeted by the jihadists that the United States?
The foreigners.
Me. I'm a Christian living in Libya. My head is cut off. She fucking killed me. That is as clear as, maybe some Americans don't get this, but that's as clear as day to me that Hillary Clinton was not for me. She would have literally killed me in an overseas war if for God forbid I was living in Libya as an immigrant right now. I would have been dead or a refugee again. I would have been another refugee thanks to the United States. I was a refugee because the coup in Greece and there was a junta there. The junta collapsed, so we had to flee. I would have been a refugee again because the United States threw out a junta, overthrew another government.
Yeah.
How else can I describe other than that? So maybe because I say stuff like that on Twitter and I could back it up. Remember I was called Russian. How many times was I called a Russian on there over and over again? That stopped as soon as Lennon McCarthy interviewed me. So he is a Greek immigrant. He's an actual immigrant, and we can't call him Russian anymore. Then it turned into you're a traitor kind of thing. Which fuck it, I'm a traitor. I'm a traitor to your version of America. Then I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, being a traitor to the establishment isn't being a traitor at all, right? It's being a real patriot.
So to me, I think it's happening with the narrative. They lost. They think the establishment thinks they rule us by controlling the narrative, and all their media allies same narrative. I don't know if they're getting talking point memos early in the morning emailed out. These are what we're going to talk about. Do an experiment, like I've done this before. Watch Channel 2, Channel 4, CBS. Here in New York is 2, 4, and 7. Watch CBS, watch NBC, and watch ABC News, the one that's around 6:30 at night. Keep switching back and forth. The news that they're talking about, not all the time, but is the exact same news topic. Back and forth, right up until the commercial, and then at the end they kind of change it a little bit. But this is a huge country.
Right.
How are they matching each other so? I'm changing the channel. I want to hear this topic. The other channel is talking about the exact same topic at the exact same time. How is that fucking possible?
You would think that if it were a free market, they would be looking at each other saying, our competitor is they've chosen to do this other group, they're leaving this other topic uncovered, so let's cover that. And then you would get a diversity of viewpoints, topics, ideas. It's not.
Or by chance, you have three rolls of the dice. Who knows what order you're supposed to do it in?
You're exactly right. They're basically
it could be the same shows, but in different orders. I'm just that experiment at home. I haven't done it in a while, but once I did it, it was like you could do it again and again. Maybe change a little bit. It's always the same topics beginning. Of course, some top. If there's some sort of a terrorist bombing, it'll be the top news story. But on a slow news day, it's impossible. Why are they all the same? I don't think the same as you do. If you were in charge of a news station and I was in charge of a news station, how are we getting the same stories?
Yeah, they'd probably overlap maybe 20 or 30%, not 80 to 90, which is what these guys are doing.
It's a little daunting. I'm sure that's because talking point memos are going out, and this is what you're going to talk about. And another thing that people don't get is there's actually a documented history of the United States co-opting reporters, where the United States has allies as reporters. Might as well call them CIA assets, FBI, whatever, deep state assets.
Yeah.
They tell them what to do and they push it. And the ones that always do this are the are the Pentagon correspondents, the ones that have ties to CIA, CNN correspondents. They always, and you could tell that they're assets because they never once write a story that's negative about the Pentagon or the CIA or anything, or American. And their reporting always matches the talking point memo that the government puts out. So that's a clear sign right there. If I'm a reporter, I'm not going to. If I was a true independent reporter about the Pentagon or the CIA, I would not report favorably about them all the time.
Right.
Maybe they did something right, I'll report favorably. But it would be a big bag. But it's always, like Judith Radlitz's name, she's one that always sticks out. She's the one that cried when Trump won, which made me so happy. I'm so fucking happy. To this day, it's like a warm glow. They created a TV series about her reporting overseas about some sort of it's a war related Iraq war or whatever. She has a series out based on her reporting. Fuck that shit. What kind of shit is that? What the fuck? I don't know.
And then we've got this alternative called PBS, and they are just they're maybe 20-30% different, but they're basically recycling the same goddamn talking points from the commercial media. So I don't see a point.
Same.
Didn't they get caught last year or the year before? Like there was a private email list or something, and these reporters were all covering the same topic from these different agencies, these different news organizations, and they were circulating what they were going to talk about or how they were going to cover the story.
I'm sure there was. It sounds familiar. I know WikiLeaks reporters.
That might have been where they found email chain.
They're coordinating with Hillary Clinton campaign, etc. It's all coordinated. It really is. I mean, I said, without going into too much detail of who I am and what I do, I know these people. I've been inside their establishments. I've seen them work. They're all coordinated up wazoo with each other.
So, from your perspective, are they working with each other on a peer level? Or are they taking orders from top down, or it's a mix of both, or it's hard to say? Or
it's up. How can I explain it without sounding? One is conspiratorial. Maybe they're taking orders, but I think it's cultural.
Okay.
You get to that certain level, and that's how people think.
If you don't believe the way they think, you just don't get in. You're just out.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Yale, how can I? Let's say if you go to Yale, you're gonna think like a Yale yachtsman, right? That kind of thing. It's a club. The club mentality is it's a clique. Let's put it that way. It's like that clique in school.
Yeah.
They don't sit. That's what I think it is, and everyone in that clique thinks together. It's a cultural thing. It's their culture, and that's what it is. Now, who the editors are, who gets the marching orders, that's a little what's going on here. There is an official narrative. We have an official way of thinking in this country. Not you and me or people on the street, but this is what we're supposed to be thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And anything beyond that is forbidden. It's verboten. Yeah. That's how I see it. And that's what scares them. And that's where I think I become victim of fucking insanity. I'm being blocked. I even created a Swarthy Facebook account, not my personal Facebook, which I deleted long ago. I deleted it as soon as Mark Zuckerberg came out with some letter about like globalization and shit. I got deleted. But when I created as soon as I got banned from, I created a Swarthy Immigrant Facebook. It got deleted like that.
Really?
Yeah, I had my face like
platform cooperation. That's great, isn't it?
How the fuck? Well, I've never, and it's one of those things. I on Twitter I get that saying, how come I have thousands of followers? It's ridiculous. My tweets are so amazing. I was joking, I was being. I noticed as soon as I came near 1,000 followers, the axe would fall. I became noticed the axe would fall. It's weird. I even had companies that followed me. I mean, I wonder, were they doing this as a threat, because I said, why is this corporation following me? It's a cybersecurity firm that has Air Force contracts and Pentagon contracts for cybersecurity or some sort of cyber shit, and they followed my account.
Right.
My little dinky Twitter internet account. Is it because I was in pro-Russian stuff, like pro-Putin stuff, like Putin is love? shit like that. Suddenly it gets weird.
I don't want to be paranoid either, but I noticed a lot of those myself, and I tried to block them whenever I could notice them because I'm positive that they're they're contractors, or the tools of contractors who are trying to keep tabs on people.
I think I was on some list until Lennon McCarthy. As soon as he interviewed me, I think maybe I came off some he's a Russian list. I'm 100% positive I was on some this guy is a fucking Russian list. And it's funny. All you racist motherfuckers on the alt-right, not one of you ever reported me. Not one of you ever said, you fucking Dago, swarthy motherfucker, back to Greece shit. Not once. Not fucking once.
Yeah.
Who did it? Hillary supporters.
Totally.
Every fucking time, it's like, you fucking immigrant, go back to your country if you don't like it. I go, wait a minute, aren't you a Democrat for Hillary? Why are you telling me this? And it's documented. I mean, people who followed me would see this, and I was like, I would retweet it. I'm like, look, hello, not one Kekistani, not one Pepe retweeter, never said anything remotely like anti-ethnic me or anti-immigrant me or go back to your country. I got reported to the FBI by Hillary supporters. I got reported to immigration on it, like they would retweet immigration on. They said like shit about Greeks to me. They said like go back to your country. I'm fucking believable. Which tells me that the Democrats don't give a fuck about your ethnicity or anything. It's all bullshit. It's all virtue signaling. They just want on the reservation.
The same thing happens to the black conservatives. It's really bad. There's like there's like 2 or 3 political positions or ideologies that the Democrats or the liberals or the left establishment will allow black people to have. And if they get off of that and start going either into mainstream conservatism or traditionalism or any of that kind of stuff, then they come down on them like a backhammer and they start calling them the N-word and every other bad thing that you can come up with and attacking them on the basis of these characteristics that if they really believed in identity politics, they would kill someone else for doing that stuff. But as soon as the slave gets off the plantation property, all bets are off.
And I think whatever official animus was directed towards me, it's got to be because of that. It's got to be because I'm an immigrant. I'm a certified immigrant in New York City.
You should be their guy. But
I should be their guy.
They're really pissed.
And I'm fucking hammering them on issue after issue. I don't believe in identity politics. You know why? It used to be called balkanization. You know where I'm from? I'm from the fucking Balkans.
Right.
I didn't leave the Balkans so I can see the Balkans happen here. It's so I'm hammering them on identity politics. And I was tying up my, when I started on Twitter, it wasn't even about politics. It was comic book shit. I had comic book accounts. It was like G.I. Joe names, Destro, shit like that. It was Destro 1, Destro 2, each one got banned. And then after that, I'm like, fuck you. And then or the immigrant, I used to go by, when the Russian stuff happened during WikiLeaks, I started KG Bigley. KGB. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And then the last I got, she said something. I remember reading something said about, Trump's going after Swarthy Immigrant. Well, there you go. That's my name now, Swarthy Immigrant. That's the one that I'm like, oh my God, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be associated with Swarthy Immigrant. Well, fuck it.
That's a classic. It's a good one.
It's a good one. I think it was really right to the heart of it. And that's when I think really it started happening. Before then, I would get banned because they would. Maybe I was a little too extreme. I cursed a lot, but I never did anything crazy. But when I swore the immigrant, and I was swore the immigrant for like 6 different accounts, each one was banned because it was something that they freaked out over. And I think is Sharon Blue. I think all those neocon, and it's neocons too that I attacked. So it could be neocons, neoliberals, which is not. There's no difference between the two. Between a neoliberal and a neocon.
It's really small. I struggle sometimes in trying to figure out, which these people are, because they'll be one of these neocon guys who's writing for, like Podhoretz or whatever that dude's name is, writing for these magazines. And if you put their positions against the neoliberal positions, I don't really see, it's like sliding that sheet of paper between them now. I think, less control the establishment has over all the stuff like this, people being able to talk like this and put it out there, driving those two different factions closer together.
And I'm not, I'm not one of these. You mentioned a black conservative. I'm not a conservative or a Republican at all. I mean, I'm independent, but I voted for Obama twice. Who's I going to vote for? George Bush, the neocon, who started these wars I'm against. John McCain, neocon, who wanted war with Russia and more. Romney, who wanted more war with Russia and Iraq war. I was against all that.
Right.
Here comes Trump. I mean, I went to Trump. Trump went on national live TV during the Republican debate and said 9/11 was a fucking lie. The Iraq war was a lie. George Bush did. No Democrat ever did that. Not even Bernie Sanders declared that the rationale for the Iraq war was a lie. He said that. Trump said that in a live debate on the Republican stage in South Carolina. The Bushes were in the audience. A Bush is on stage. John McCain's love buddy, Graham, is a senator, is in that fucking state. I fell in love with the guy right there and then. Who else ever did that? Nobody. Some French candidate maybe. That's something that, did he get any sort of as soon as he did that, every Democrat that used to say the exact same thing discredited. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you're a Democrat and you were also calling the Iraq war a lie, suddenly on Twitter, people like Oberman, they forgot that they said the exact same thing about the Iraq war, and suddenly bot because you're saying this thing about the Iraq war. That's Trump also said, and Democrats used to say, not official Democrats, but Democrats on the street. Suddenly, that Russian or some shit like that. That's a Russian talking point. That's some discontent or some shit like that. But Trump did that to also do that. That got me Trump's vote. I mean, on that foreign policy alone. Who was I going to vote for? Hillary? I would have voted for Hillary Clinton. But what did she do against the neocons? That fucking cunt embraced the neocons. She embraced them. She was calling for more of that shit. What? How was I was going to vote for Hillary, fine. I had no problem. Legitimately, if you go on my Twitter, one of my first Twitter accounts before I got banned, the pre-ban Twitter me, was like, I look forward to voting for Hillary. Trump can't say, Trump's a joke, whatever. But I was saying that because I had the assumption that Hillary was going to be anti-war. Mm-hmm. She was going to embrace that shit.
That she was going to be an alternative to the neocon bullshit that we've been living under for the past 20 years. Right.
She was going to be like Obama, but she didn't turn out that way at all. Something weird happened when she embraced neocons. She attacked Bernie for wanting to, pretty much having the same foreign policy as Trump. They had the same foreign policy as Trump. Yeah. Even on immigration, Bernie was against immigration. Mm-hmm. She recognized importing all these cheap immigrants to America lowered the wages of Americans.
Yeah, that's like a worker socialist perspective. Jeremy Corbyn, he used to be hostile to the EU, or I think he was up until very recently.
He was.
They don't want people coming in because it's going to lower the wages for the constituency. It's it's easy to understand, but
Well, one of the things that brought Brexit for that, it was a lot of African Londoners or Indians or people that come from the Commonwealth, immigrants from the Commonwealth.
Right.
They were against staying in the EU because they were losing jobs to immigrants from Poland.
Yeah, the Poles, yeah.
Something, European. You had the minorities that come from that found a niche inside United culture. They were laborers, people from Jamaica. In other words, people from the British Empire that immigrated to England found their niche there. Suddenly, you have, as part of the EU immigration thing, all these non-British immigrants, and by British immigrants I mean British colony immigrants, coming into England, taking their jobs. People would hire the Pole who went to college but is working for next to nothing.
Yeah.
On the construction site, the Jamaican worker loses his job, so they voted for Brexit also. But how was Brexit sold officially? If you were for Brexit, you were doing it because you were racist. Yeah. And one of the tweets I wrote is, How are you racist against fellow white people? You know, I mean, you're Europe. I know.
You got to be a pretty hardcore, like Nordicist,
Yeah,
like Nazi type to say that the Poles aren't white. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
I
You got to
mean,
be pretty hardcore to say that.
you're disconnecting from Germany,
Yeah.
and they try to make it like you're racist or you're xenophobic.
Yeah.
They did it for the same reasons Bernie was citing. All this immigration is lowering the wages of the lower class people. It's not just jobs that are going overseas or whatnot. It was because you're losing the native Commonwealth immigrants, as well as the native British Anglo-Saxons, were losing out to these immigrants because they're lowering the wages. Not only that, Corbyn was anti-EU because, again, people keep saying the EU is socialist. It's not. In Greece had a national airline. They had to privatize it because it's against EU rules to have a government-subsidized industry. That's not socialism. So it is a free market, but it's free market with a lot of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So that's why Americans keep calling the EU socialist, because it kind of confuses them a little bit.
Yeah.
So, in fact, when I was one of the first jobs I had at a college was the French steel industry owned by the government had to privatize, and I was sort of involved in that endeavor. So here you have a French socialized industry, and it was socialized back in after World War II, had to privatize to get right with EU's policy of letting the market decide, competition and whatnot. So Corbyn, from Labour standpoint, is anti-EU because EU is austerity. If I want to spend more money on welfare programs to help my suffering people, I can't because the EU dictates austerity or some sort of free market policy. So it's actually anti-left wing.
Yeah, it's a neoliberal enterprise.
It is a neoliberal.
It's
exactly.
Center left, but free market. So I don't know if center left means anything in that context, but it's like the Bill Clinton Blair, that kind of thing on a multinational scale.
But if you're for Brexit, you're a
xenophobic racist.
Xenophobic racist that hates socialism.
Yeah.
But it's not the case at all. You can be totally socialist. In fact, being a socialist and inside the EU, you don't want to be in. Greece has a socialist government now. They wanted to leave the EU, but then they got threatened to do that, and so the socialist government, Syriza, had to back down. Varoufakis, if you ever look at him, he was ready to go and start his own Greeks, get out of the euro, but they stuff.
What do you think is going to happen in the 2019 election in Greece? Do you have any opinion about that or expectation?
Yeah, I think the conservative government is going to, based on what I'm seeing now, the New Democracy Party, win. But Greece has a parliamentary system like most of Europe does, so that means coalition governments. No one. They'll get more votes. Syriza was a coalition of the far left.
Right.
Maoist parties, socialist parties. Europe still has Maoists and Marxists and all those people. Greece has a national Stalinist Communist Party, which is one of the largest parties, KKE, but they lost badly because. And there's also have a PASOK, which is a socialist party, but Syriza, when it became a party, wiped out all
those guys.
Yeah. The ones that were established in World War II. The Stalinist KKE, the PASOK, which was the opposition socialist. So all those they created a big coalition, and they won the election. They beat out, but I think because he kind of betrayed the revolution, his policies are no different than what would have happened if a conservative government won.
Right, they're really reacting more to the situation rather than to their ideologies.
No, they're constrained by the EU.
Yeah.
You have to do it this way or we won't give you any loans. So there's nothing you can do.
Right.
The solution to do is they want to threaten you, saying if you don't give us relief, we'll start our own currency. Mm-hmm. Germany called our bluff and said, go ahead, do it. And they're like, We gotta. They caved basically, and in fact caved with worse conditions than would have happened if they didn't sort of blackmail them. So people gave it a shot, kind of thing. We'll go back to the. If you're gonna have a party that does the exact same thing that the free market New Democrat Party wants to, then might as well vote for the party that's willing to do it rather than you who bitches about it and doesn't like it and thinks it's a disgrace. You're doing it. And, that kind of. I think the same thing happened to Obama. Here's Obama saying, I think the Democrats lost a lot because they promised they would crack down on Wall Street and whatnot, and they ended up enabling, new neoliberal. What was the difference? He came into power and he saved the banks. He should have broke the banks. He should have.
The second Bush term, and the first Obama term. I mean, I was paying attention pretty closely, I thought, and I didn't see a whole lot of differences. Pretty much carried the foreign policy and the domestic policy forward. And
that explains Trump. Trump was actually a break, and that's what made it so dangerous. And I think the entire banning me, Twitter banning people, YouTube banning people, Google destroying searches, registering Russia Today as a foreign. All of that is because the establishment thinks they lost the narrative. By Obama is so the same as Bush in some respects. They lost the narrative. It's our Arab Spring. What happened to the Arab Spring? Internet. They shut it down. But here we don't do that. They kind of realize it's against the Constitution for the government to censor people. Corporations can censor you all they want. And they're using the corporations, our government, to censor us.
That's an interesting perspective. So since the government can't do it, they've got to use their cronies in industry and the big gigantic companies that basically depend on the government to continue making money. So they're having their cronies do it for them. Okay, that makes sense.
The government can't censor you tweeting a Pepe meme. In fact, the memes scare the shit out of them. Because memes or any satire or any sort of counter message scares the shit out of them. Because they can't fight a meme. Like CNN, what explains the freak out over a funny meme of a knockdown on CNN wrestling thing? Nothing. Right. It's a kid's joke. But they take it seriously because they know that destroys their power over the narrative. And that explains why the CNN sort of went to the trouble of doxing you, the guy who created the thing, and he promised never to do it again. Since he promised never to do it again, we won't tell you who he is unless he does it again. Then we'll tell you. But it's not a blackmail. It's not fucking blackmail. And then I go, wear this fucking sock over my for a fucking reason. Yeah. I'd love to fucking tell people who I am, but I won't, because if the CNN is doxing somebody for making a cartoon meme, what the fuck would they do to me? Will they call my boss? Will they find out where I work? I'll be out of a job? What the fuck? I'm going to wear them. As much as I'd love all the people I've met on Twitter and whatnot, that's not going to happen. I'm never going to read it. This is my reveal as people are going to get. And believe me, I had feelers out there. I had people. There were attempts to unmask me. Really hot on Twitter. There were really heavy attempts to unmask me.
People trying to say, oh, hey, I think I might be in the same area as you. You want to get together, this, that, just all that kind of stuff.
Not only that, but again, because I know people in the marketing create mailing lists and whatnot. And I heard back through the feedback that they were looking to see, does anyone know who this guy is based on the clues that he's given out that who he is? We want to dox him. We want to dox him. That kind of shit. So I've seen it. It's kind of fucking scary. And I'm a nobody. And I'm literally a nobody on Twitter. I had a funny little Twitter account. I think touched a lot of people. They found it humorous. They found it funny, enlightening, a different perspective. I don't think anyone had the same worldview that I have. Or if they did, they weren't expressing it the way I was. And something scared him. And guess who got banned recently on Twitter?
Who's that?
Peter Douche, the guy that goes on.
Yeah.
He had a sort of the same perspective I did from the from the left-wing anti-neoliberal. He got banned for that. He was actually less toxic than I was, because I was actually, in some ways, I was praising Jesus for John McCain's brain cancer. I was saying like Putin is love, Putin is the leader of the free world, which I totally believe he is, and shit like that. Death to NATO, Death to NATO, signed a citizen of 2 NATO countries, which I am. I'm a citizen of Greece and the United States, 2 NATO countries, and I fucking want NATO to die a horrible death. Shit like that. I can see where I can be toxic enough to ban. But Peter Douche get banned?
It was a satire account. It's satire.
That's as white bread as white bread can be. Yeah. I was a little edgy. He was not edgy, and they banned him. And shortly after, they banned me. So it's, in fact, I just went on. I told you, right? They banned my as soon as I identified myself as Swarthy Immigrant. That's it. The accounts were gone. So I still have 9 accounts to go, and I'm trying to find the formula. But I'm thinking to myself, if I can't call myself Swarthy Immigrant, if I can't get people who are following me to figure him, then why go back? I got to create a new identity.
You're gonna have to come up with. You're gonna have to get the thesaurus out and look for some other words. Like some kind of other words for swarthy and immigrant. The something refugee, dusky refugee, something like that.
Is that worth it?
Well, I mean, just see if it works. Like, see if they're good enough to figure out who it is.
I use swarthy with numbers and the @@ symbol.
Yeah, that broke it.
Okay. That lasted a little longer.
Yeah.
That lasted a few hours longer until someone realized it. It was me. In fact, I think they realized it because they have a list of people that followed me. Followed.
So it's not do the correlations or the network analysis and find out who's following who, and
that scares me. I don't want someone who's following my account to get banned because they followed me.
I don't know. At this point, I think if Twitter banned everybody who didn't agree with the establishment point of view, that'd probably be best for all of us, and then we could just get the fuck out of there and go to Gab and just be done with Twitter.
That's it. You can find me on Gab. I'm
Greek Style.
Greek Style was one of my accounts on. It was Greek Style 1. I actually started numbering them. Greek Style 1, Greek Style 2, Greek Style. Usually it lasted about 3, and then they would ban the 4th. So then that switched over to. I had a loaner. I had a guy who created a fellow Greek, who had this Tasso TAS account. He had it for sports purposes. He never used it. He didn't use it. So I used it, and because it pre-existed. Already, I was able to lasted longer until they could figure that out. In other words, that's the only. I even had some friends of mine, followers on Twitter, that created accounts for me. They don't even live in the same state, but Swarthy, it was banned right away.
Yeah, I remember when that happened.
So it's touch the account. It wasn't a case of like, all right, here it is. I'm handing it over to you. It's an account that sort of linked me to me, it got banned. So it's kind of fucking funny and scary at the same time.
Yeah, it's both for sure.
It's one of those things when you live in a totalitarian society, and I think we are at the point where we are a totalitarian society. Because totalitarian means they want you to think a certain way or not have that word, and it have to be disappeared or become an unperson.
Yeah, we don't have physical repression, we don't have the murder and the physical violence, but in terms of the way that they're trying to control thought and political activity, we're definitely there in that regard.
Yeah, the Russians were fucking amateurs compared to because we could do it on a way that's not violent or disruptive to society. Stalin you in a gulag. Well, Google here just put you in their gulag. Difference. It doesn't matter if, and you're still doing a job. You still have your job, and you're still contributing to society.
Still creating that tax revenue, right? Still buying products.
Yeah, but you're not in a gulag. You're not costing them anything. We figured out, I guess, because the United States society, we figured out how to enslave people and keep their views down and whatnot better than the Russians ever could have, or the Chinese ever could have.
Yeah,
it's freer to be in China right now than it is to be in the United States. There's a funny line from the HBO show Silicon Valley, where one of the Chinese guys is smoking, and his American pal says, "Look, we don't have all the freedoms you do in China. Stop smoking." I thought that was like a right on line, because it really does seem that way.
Pretty
and I
good.
think, again, it goes down to the establishment thinks they control society through the iron boot, but through the control of the narrative. And any sort of countering of that narrative. That's why they don't want us to go on Russia Today. I don't go on Russia Today. I never even barely pay attention to it. Alex Jones, any sort of alternative media, World Socialist, the socialist websites, all these things, that bothers them more than anything else. They want the official narrative. They don't want people having alternative narratives. If you have you're a threat to them. And that's where the repression is happening. So that was my biggest fear when Trump won, that would be the reaction that we would get. And it turns out I was totally right. They can't control the narrative, so they're going to get rid of the narrative that counters them. That's what happened.
Maybe it'll be good in the long run because, for myself, I got a professional background in political science from the academic point of view. And I've been, listening, paying attention, being involved in politics pretty much since I was probably 20 years old. So I didn't think I was completely ignorant of this stuff, but it really took the Trump election and then the aftermath of that to show me what was really going on. And now I feel kind of embarrassed, because, people can Noam Chomsky, manufacturing consent, and kind of say, oh, well, the media is corrupt. Just the extent of it wasn't apparent. So now at least we know what was really going on for such a amount of time. I
keep telling the right wing on Gab, some red pills are actually colored. If Noam Chomsky, you may have thought of him as some sort of left liberal. Some red pills are. That doesn't mean communism is right in everything. It just means maybe their criticism is correct. I even feel bad calling him a communist, because at least the left in this country that used to exist before Hillary election came along, and the right wing kind of shared it too. They realized something's wrong with the establishment. Something's wrong with that narrative. It's maybe wrong on foreign policy level. Something wrong is happening here. The right wing didn't catch on to that. The right wing just assumed all government is bad, which is not the case. Government builds roads. It's not all bad.
Right.
What's bad is their means of control and what they're doing to push a policy idea. They control us because they want to push certain like war onto us. And I see it in the foreign policy realm more so than anything else. I don't see it on the domestic front that much. I mean, there's stuff that obviously the press is pro-Democrat versus Republican most of the time. But if George, or Neil Bush, whatever his name is, if he won the presidency, we would see the press sort of be deferential to him too, just and everything, And the thing that bugs me most, and no one noticed, some people are noticing this, but that the way they're pushing propaganda on us now is through the talk show, the comedy shows, like
the late night.
Who's writing their agenda? These are comedy people. They're fucking idiots. It sounds like this is what we got. This is our narrative. Where we're gonna push the narrative, and we're gonna have these comedians at night make it, haha, these guys suck, ha ha ha. This is what should be happening, And you realize that you're watching this, and you're like, it's obvious that they're preaching to you, but through the guise of it's just our comedy routine. They're pushing an agenda. Who's responsible for that agenda? Who's disseminating the talking points? Where are they getting it from? Are they in league with some think tank? Where are these joke guys getting their writing material from?
And it's like you said with the news stations. If they were doing slightly different things, it would be one thing. But if you could line all three of them next to each other up and see them doing their opening monologues, and they're all bashing on Trump for the same stuff, it looks a little weird, and a lot of people realize that, and it's a good thing. I think they're overplaying their hand. I think they should have kept doing what they were doing for the last 15 years and just kind of slowballed it until they got further along. But Trump, he was unexpected. He kind of blew their spot up, and they reacted poorly, and it's probably good for us in the long run.
I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what happens to the next elections. They think that if they stop trends, all this all about Russian bot. So, I thought that was the whole point of the internet. Let's say it's Russians retweeting shit. They treat that as if it's sinister. But I thought that was the whole point of the fucking internet, is people from all over the world talking to each other.
Yeah.
You mean a Russian is retweeting shit and somehow that's bad?
Well, these are the same people who can't look at the United States history in the last 10 or 12 years of us doing all kinds of shit on the internet in every part of the world and undermining people everywhere with the internet, and they're saying that 200 Russians in an apartment building are somehow throwing our election. It's totally dishonest. It's ridiculous. We've done 10 times worse to much smaller, less important countries.
All those Russian Facebook ads and the Twitter stuff, all those. You know what those are? Those are clickbait advertising. That's how they make money. It has nothing to do with a political agenda. They take what's trending hot. In fact, back in the old days when there were fax machines, some guy made a fortune about faxing. Do you think we should ban abortion? Yes or no? Fax us back. We'll charge you 50 cents, and we'll send your vote to Congress. He must have made a fucking fortune doing this. It's clickbait. Mm-hmm. So Russian is, they make it sound sinister, but what it is, and I'm not the only. If you look up Moon of Alabama, he's a left-wing Twitterer, but I came to the conclusion a little actually before he did, but we kind of talked about it, and I said, oh God, I had the exact same thing a couple of weeks ago before you said the same thing. You didn't copy me or anything, you just came to the same conclusion. These are clickbait ads, like the puppy ads. Everyone remember who was talking about the Russian puppy ads? That wasn't Russia trying to mess our election. That's some guy in Russia saying people love puppies if they click our ad will make money. But he's in Russia or the East Europe or something like that. That's all that was.
Right.
But they make it sinister, and they make it sinister to sort of push an agenda, push a narrative. I think the whole Mueller thing is going to come down to. I made a prediction. If you guys ever follow, I made the following prediction: Mueller's going to come down on people around Trump for non-Russia stuff, like lobbying or not reporting money from lobbying or not registering as a foreign agent, stuff that people routinely sort of not do. Apparently, not registering as a foreign agent if you're a lobbyist is something that's routine because there was never any punishment for it. Because if they called you, just retroactively said, "Oh yeah, I am." So that's easy. That's what they're going to go after.
Do you think he's going to get the same thing as Manafort? Basically, he's going to get some other crimes that aren't related to Russia.
Flynn is in trouble for work for Turkey. Turkey is an American NATO ally that we're going to fight a war with Russia with. We're pledged to die for Turkey under NATO's ally. So he's in trouble for undeclared work for Turkey. Not for Russia, for Turkey. So, and what's going to happen is, I think what's going to happen is he's going to get people for those kind of charges. He's going to sort of create a report that says Trump was blind or oblivious or he didn't understand the threat to Russia enough. Nothing criminal like that. For the established, because Mueller is a bureaucrat, and he's got to punish Trump for going after Comey, who's a bureaucrat. In other words, the bureaucrats have to stick up for their fellow bureaucrats.
Do you know the stuff about Comey and Mueller being involved together with getting the Clinton Foundation?
Yeah, they're all involved in that. They're all buddies.
They gave them a pass. They were supposed to be investigating. They let it go, man. Those guys like this is what I'm saying.
See, that's what's happening. Mueller's there to sort of show us, the society, that you can't do this to our class. We're the bureaucracy class. We're the mandarins of the forbidden city. There's the emperor inside the forbidden city, but who runs the palace is the mandarins. Don't fuck with our mandarins. But we can't knock you down because technically the elected officials are our boss. We work for them. So we can't do a coup on you. So we can't knock you out of power, but we can empower you. So this is what the entire Mueller investigation will do at the end. He's going to get some people on Trump's periphery that did stuff not related to Russia, didn't
because
declare
there's nothing
that.
to find, right? There is no Russia stuff. It's just
No,
not
there is no
there.
Russia. The most you can say is they were doing opposition. In other words, some Russians said, we have evidence of Clinton being shady in Russia with money. Well, fuck yeah. Isn't what the news is supposed to do? Trump is, if that's the case, I want to find out what shady shit Clinton is doing. But that's not during the election. It's not, they were telling us the Russian collusion shit was. They were telling us that the voting machines were rigged and not. So at the end of the day, it's my prediction, and I've been right so far. I don't think I've ever had a prediction that was failed. He's going to get people around Trump's periphery for doing non-Russia related collusion stuff. You didn't declare on your form that you met a Russian. You didn't pay your taxes if you were lobbying. You didn't register as a lobbyist. You neglected some sort of paperwork shit, right? And then he's going to put out a report that Trump was too nice to Russia. So this punishes all these lobbyists that were for people that the CIA says are our enemies. So it has a twofold thing. It punishes people that help our enemies, lobbyists. That's why they're going after Podesta, because he was helping a regime that the CIA is anti. The CIA says is enemy. And he's going to sort of declare Trump wasn't smart enough, or he was sort of duped into, he was too friendly with Russian stuff because deep state is anti-Russian, because Russia cockblocks them with their overseas empire. China does not cockblock us. As much as we are anti-Chinese, Chinese are like, as long as you stay away from our borders, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You're the boss of the world, America. Russia, because maybe they think they're the third realm, they were the former U.S. They don't fucking identify you as a leader of the free world. A co-equal part. We are the third Rome. We are the legacy of the Roman Empire. We are the third Roman Empire, legitimately. You can't tell us because you're American what to do. Yeltsin was compliant. I'm fucking Putin. I'm not compliant. Shit like that bothers the deep state. So that's where I think is going to happen. No impeachment. No, they're going to try to hobble Trump on foreign policy. I think at the end of the day, Trump can say, well, they didn't find any collusion. I'm vindicated. Yeah, it's wrong that Flynn was taking money from the Turks, but the Turks aren't Russian. That kind of it's where I see the narrative and the deep state sort of intersect with each other.
Well, what's going to happen to all the normal low level, lefties and Democrats who are fanatically anti-Trump, who think I've had several of them, just chew my ass repeatedly and say, Trump's going to be doing the purple walk across the White House lawn. All of his people are going to go to jail. Mueller's going to get all. Mueller's going to get all of them. What's going to happen to them when it doesn't happen? When the investigation's over? Well,
I think they're gonna be inflated a little bit, but they're shit anyway. So whatever the media says. Remember the goalpost keeps.
True. That's true.
So right now you have people cheering, haha, we got you, Manafort. Manafort was charged for any collusion. He was charged for not paying taxes or some shit.
Right.
The Greek guy that was pro-Trump, fucking never trust us Greeks. He got in trouble for lying to the FBI, and because he got spooked, and he was meeting with the Russians. If he said, yeah, I spoke to the Russians, and we were trying to get opposition research, he would not have been charged with any fucking crime whatsoever.
The only thing he did wrong was not disclose the meeting.
Yeah, and I think because he got spooked by it. You can get spooked easily.
Sure.
Suddenly talking to the Russians, like if I was in a situation, the FBI says, are you pro-Putin? Fuck yeah. What are you going to do to me? What are you going to, how dare you be pro-Putin? Well, suck my dick. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm pro-Putin all the way. Like, shit like that. You wouldn't get in trouble at all. There's nothing they can do to you. You can, you want, like, what's his name? Carter, I think his first name. He has business in Russia. He's against sanctions in Russia. What are they going to tell him? So you're against the Russian sanctions? Yeah, fuck you. I got business in Russia. I don't want sanctions on my business. If there's nothing you can do about it. Opposition research, not against the fucking law. WikiLeaks gets information, talk about it as a campaign, not against the law, not Russian collusion. And WikiLeaks isn't Russia either, no matter how much you want to say. In fact, I think it was a trap. You had FBI, the CIA's guy, Pompeo,
yeah,
who himself quoted WikiLeaks when he was running for office against the Democrats, come out and say, we think WikiLeaks is a Russian op. They're related after the fact. And now, because you talk, the trap was, because they knew this, the trap was because Trump people talked to WikiLeaks, and Pompeo retroactively said that they're Russian, agents, you're colluding with the Russians kind of thing. You see how that works?
yeah.
How they trap you? They knew all this shit from the get-go. All these emails were public record or known to them. So that's how they fucking trap you. That's how the bureaucracy traps you. They don't trap you to knock you out of power so much. They might do. What they're just looking for is to make sure that you don't end the war overseas with Russia. You don't fight with Russia. You don't do deals with Russia. Assad, they wanted Assad gone to the point where we were arming jihadists in Syria. And, the entire ISIS leadership was wiped out by Russian airstrikes. The Russians did that. We didn't do that.
Right.
The Russians wiped out al-Baghdadi and all his lieutenants. So they did that, not us. But in the American press, no one says that. You even had a Tucker Carlson, God damn it, he must have been red-pilled or something.
It's weird, right? I mean, he's our guy, and he keeps putting this stuff out there, even though I know he's got to have huge pressure to stop doing that, right?
It's like one of those things where it just tickles me in the right part of my brain when he does it. He had Ralph Peters, he had neocons that were on Fox all the time pushing these neocon talking points, like Ralph Peters. And Ralph Peters was denying that Russia killed al-Baghdadi and the ISIS leader. He was denying it, and he was upset that Russia was given a free hand to do that, and he wanted to claim that Russia wasn't killing ISIS, they were killing like normal rebels kind of thing, And Tucker Carlson was like, that's not the case. They killed the ISIS leadership. How can you say that? And if Iran is killing Al-Qaeda with the help of Assad, why is that a bad thing? Because it makes Iran, well, you should have empowered Iran with invading Iraq in the first place. It's one of those, and you could see them being angry because
they don't have anything to say. They're responsible for all of it. So
what they do is they ban us who say shit like that as much as they can. That's the official narrative. That's where we are problems to them, and that's where, unfortunately, I'm a victim of this establishment ban. Little old me, Swarthy Immigrant.
We're gonna
Gab is my last. I've been banned from everything. I used to be on Free Republic. If anyone is from Free Republic, I am Destro, I am Pericles, and I was Spar on Free Republic. I'm the guy that used to post all that pro-Serbian shit on Free Republic. You banned me multiple fucking times from Free Republic. I've been banned from every fucking format available. I've been banned from Free Republic. I mean, I thought about it. I'm like, oh my fucking God, what? Maybe something's wrong with me. I've been banned from Free Republic. I've been banned from Twitter. I've been banned from Facebook. Last fucking outlet is Gab. It's me and the fucking crazy Nazis. That's it. And I'm not even a fucking Nazi. The only place I'm free is with these alt-right weirdos that worship a frog. That's where I'm a refugee in Kyrgyzstan now.
And that tells you how bad the establishment is, and that's what really, got me thinking about wanting to do this with you. And made the other video before is like you're unlike these other people you're being forced into with. So what is it about both of these groups that they have in common? And it's that they're big threats to the establishment. But you're the more interesting type because it's not any of the socially unacceptable stuff. A little edgy, but it's all fine.
They want you guys to be anti-Semitic. I'm not. I believe in a two-state solution for Israel. I'm pro.
Some people would say that's anti-Semitic. You can't get away from the anti-Semitism. You just can't. That's
true. But I'm anti-Islamist. But I'm not. I'm pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
I'm Islamist. I'm secular. I'm not religious. Mm-hmm. I'm pushing a religious agenda. I'm pro-gay rights. I'm not gay, but I'm pro-gay rights. I don't want to bother people who are gay. That's sort of a libertarian. I'm a little mix of everything. I'm like libertarian. If someone's gay, as long as they're not bothering me, I am for people being gay. I'm also for people who don't want to make a cake for a gay wedding. They shouldn't be forced to make a gay wedding cake either. I'm against women wearing hijabs on the street, but I don't want to force them not to wear it. But I don't want to say that women who wear those Islamic hijabs are somehow feminists or somehow It's not. When did that become? Feminists used to burn bras to show that they were against the patriarchy, but suddenly the patriarchy enforced headgear from Islam is it's acceptable. It's because they're minorities.
It's cultural Marxism. So, like, the only way that they can make a competitive coalition is by putting all these different groups together that don't have a fucking thing in common with each other. They have no common goals other than, well, let's take over, and then maybe we'll kill each other later. But first, let's just do this.
They're using the left is using Muslims to virtue signal, but deep down, feminists don't believe women should wear the hijab. They don't believe that's an empowering thing. They're anti-religion. So why are they pushing this even more extreme version of the Abrahamic religion that they're against? And they're not the only. If you look at, there's lots of reports about them making fun of the Mormons who wear. They have to wear religiously
underclothes. Yeah.
Underclothes. Amish women have to wear
the head covering.
Orthodox Jewish women have to wear either a hat or a wig to cover up their same sort of principle with Muslims covering it up. You'll find lots of reports of the mainstream media left sort of poo-pooing that, making fun of that, but not with the Muslims. Because they fear, I think conservatives think that, they fear the Muslims, or maybe they're trolling Christians. It's not that they're trolling Christians. What they're doing is they're building a coalition with a minority, sort of virtue signal. But deep down inside, they're not pro-Muslim, the left. They're not. Who shares the same values as a Muslim? The conservative Christians.
Yeah.
There's Muslims actually voted Republican until Trump came along because Trump called them out on their bullshit.
Right.
There's a level of insanity that Muslim extreme religion. We had 200 and 300 people killed today in Egypt. From sectarian Muslim violence. So that's a problem. Trump called it out. He's not anti-Muslim. He just called it out. We have a problem with this religion. I think because Trump and Christians were calling this out. The other side is, we're going to take the opposite stance that you do, and we're going to use these. Hillary was having women with hijabs on stage with her during speeches, and in my head, I'm thinking, is there some sort of hijab vote out there that she's trying to? She's not. She's virtue signaling.
Yeah, because the Muslims are only like 1% of the population, I think. So unless you're in like Dearborn or something like that, there's not enough of them for constituency.
And Trump won more Muslim votes than Romney did. That shocked. If you look it up, it shocked all these Muslim Democrat organizations that did a poll, and Trump won because these Muslims left that Muslim country. Like I'm from the Balkans. I don't want the United States to be balkanized. I don't want to be like Yugoslavia, where we're having factions fighting each other in a civil war. We're all supposed to assimilate in the public sphere, and we're also, speak English, Merry Christmas, all that fucking shit. I'm not religious, but I say Merry Christmas all the time. I celebrate religion for cultural reasons, It's the assimilation thing. But Democrats are stigmatizing us because they don't want to aggravate minorities because they built up a... See, the thing with identity politics is, and I'll tell you what the problem is. If you're of the left, the problem is economics. You want the worker to make more money. If you're a neoliberal, you're still pro-capitalist. You don't want that worker making more money for the company. So how do we compensate you, or how do we quiet you down? And we push identity politics. It's like that Pepsi can commercial. Yeah, you're an unemployed hipster in Brooklyn playing on the street music, instruments, and you can't get a job. But we're gonna celebrate Kwanzaa. You're black and unemployed. Fuck, we're not gonna make you get hired. But man, we're gonna celebrate Kwanzaa. See, we celebrated Kwanzaa. Aren't you happy? Those fucking conservatives, they hate Kwanzaa. No, you're not gonna get hired. You're gonna lose your job to a Mexican black person. But we celebrate Kwanzaa. Hey, Mexican. No, we still want your cheap immigrant labor. But we're gonna have Cinco de Mayo. So it's like what would a Mexican want? More money or us celebrating Cinco de Mayo? If you had a choice, that's what I think identity politics is. It's how the Marx says religion is the opiate of the masses. I think identity politics was being pushed as the opiate to the masses. In other words, you minorities, we're not going to do anything to make your life better. We're not going to get you jobs in Wall Street. We're not going to tax the rich to give to the poor. Haha, fuck you. But we're going to celebrate diversity. That kind of shit. What does diversity mean in terms of money? Nothing. It's cheap. We'll put a Kwanzaa tree up there, or whatever the fuck they put. You see, we're celebrating Kwanzaa, but our company is all white. There's one black guy. There's a funny thing. Google hired some sort of diversity, a black woman.
I saw this, yeah.
But and she sort of dumbed down what diversity means, diversity of opinion. And you know why she did that? Because they can hire minorities who can't do the math or can't do the, so they have to sort of come up with a new version of what diversity means to sort of justify that their staff is all, from the classes that don't need any diversity, white.
And she got shit canned, right? Because that wasn't enough.
She wasn't smart enough to coach it.
Yeah.
She didn't use she used too obvious, but it goes down to Google isn't going to hire people that don't know how to do their fucking job. They're just not. I didn't get my job because I'm a Greek immigrant. I got my job because I knew what to do. In fact, being an immigrant probably was a detrimental thing toward me because I didn't become an immigrant until American citizen until the 90s. So it was probably held me back, kind of thing. Who knows? I don't know. But I didn't get it because I'm an immigrant. In other words, they didn't hire me because no business hire me. If they do, it's a no-show job.
Okay.
So Google doesn't have any no-show job kind of thing. They won't hire a programmer because he's a transvestite American Chinese person or whatever.
Have you seen much of the H-1B visas? Have you seen them hiring tech people like that? I hear that a lot, but
they do hire. I'm not tech, but they do hire a lot of people like that because they can do the job cheaply. It's. When Trump won the election, when Disney started firing middle manager types and exporting their jobs to India. Some of that, and they had to train the. It was fine when the jobs that were being outsourced were low-level jobs.
Right.
Once the outsourcing started to hit middle management, that's when it happened. In fact, I think one of the Brexit people, I forgot who it was, he says, if we started outsourcing press jobs to the third world, you motherfuckers that are pro-Brexit, that's when you guys would be anti-Brexit. But it doesn't hit you guys in Brooklyn in the tech industry or whatever. It's that kind of thing. And that's where the identity politics was using to muffle that. I think it was being used to muffle that. And it got to the point that's working up to a point. It doesn't work anymore, I think. Bernie recognized that. Bernie Sanders was anti-identity politics. He was all about the economics.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's correct. I'm not trying to argue left-wing, right-wing economics or anything. But he recognized that. Bernie was sort of Trump, but more polished. Trump was sort of like I recognize him because he's a Queens guy. I mean, the way he speaks is the way we speak on the street in Queens. I think it's from growing up on construction sites and whatnot. It's Queen talk. It's Queens English. Bernie was a little bit more polished. Vermont English, that kind of shit. So pretty much they were almost the exact same on foreign policy and on immigration, which is kind of no one kind of mentioned. A few people mentioned it, but not many people mentioned that Bernie was also against immigration.
Yeah.
He was for amnesty for whoever was here because kicking him out is going to it's going to be forever job. Whoever came in, let's leave him in here. The other side is, oh my God, we can leave those guys here anyway. But he's like, no, it's going to take forever for us to kick him out. We don't want people being dragged out in the street, especially if we get money from them for taxes. But no more. Trump is like, and Trump was like, oh, I want to kick him out. It was this rhetorical flourish kind of thing. But he's not going to kick him out anyway. But it's to me it was interesting that Bernie and Trump were on the same wavelength when it came to that.
Well, they were both in touch with what the American people wanted, because if you look at all of the establishment Republican candidates, they had a lot in common with each other, and they had a lot in common with Hillary. And then the two people that were really motivating, most of the voters were Trump and Bernie. So,
it's funny. It's on the Republican side, you had a few candidates that were sort of like Trump on the foreign policy side, like Ron Paul. He was against wars overseas, but he was because he's a libertarian, he's pro-globalization, he's pro-free trade. So he's half Trump, but that pro-globalization shit kills him. Because, let me get the Iraq War too, but I don't want my fucking job outsourced to China. That's a problem also. You had Ted Cruz, who was a standard neocon. He wanted the wars, plus he wanted free trade and open borders. Remember, in one of the debates, Cruz says, thanks to China, we can get free diapers, cheaper diapers than what we would get if they were made in America. I'm like, fuck you. Maybe, what are you arguing? How can you argue that? And he lost it right then and there. I think he lost the election when he mentioned that diaper shit, where he's like, we're losing jobs, but we get those diapers for half the price, made in China. Yeah, made in China with asbestos. I don't know what the fuck they're making it with.
Right.
And what's wrong with American-made diapers? I'll pay an extra nickel for a baby diapers made in the USA. I'm an immigrant. I'm trying to keep Americans not being killed overseas, and I'm trying to make American jobs stay in the United States. As an immigrant, I'm doing this. Why are these Americans trying to outsource jobs? It blows my mind. It drives me nuts.
I think they just don't have a firm grounding in economics, and they thought that what went on from basically the 1970s up until the year 2000 with all the outsourcing, that they thought that we could just keep doing it, we would never actually feel the result. And mostly it was the people in the Rust Belt who got hurt most. Some people on the Atlantic coast with textile mills and stuff, but for everybody else in the country, they didn't really feel the pain too much. Now with the tech stuff too, even more people got hurt, and now I think there's more of like a national awareness that you can't just keep doing this forever, even if the prices go down or they stay the same while inflation goes up, so it's still, purchasing power still stays the same or gets better. You can't just outsource your entire fucking economy indefinitely. No. More people get that now.
I think so. I think we hit Trump's secret sauce, I think, was he recognized this. It was passed. Remember, passed after the Democrat. It was most Republicans and some Democrats. That seems to be the ratio. Not all Republicans were for NAFTA, but almost a huge block. 80% of Republicans were for NAFTA, and 20% of Democrats were for NAFTA. So that's how they passed it. Trump's secret sauce is, by being against, he got the Democrat votes plus the growing number of Republicans that were anti-NAFTA, even though the leadership of the Republican Party was for NAFTA.
Yeah.
By the Democrats also pushing for NAFTA or TPP or NAFTA, alienating base. So, were you lying to us? Bernie was anti-NAFTA. He was anti-TPP. He was anti-TPP. Hillary was pro-TPP. She kind of tried to, I'll reevaluate it. Trump was anti all that shit, and I think his secret sauce was that. He took votes from the left and the right and the independents, and it was a mismatch, and it hit the right states. Some states are doing well under globalization. It was supposed to be it lifts all boats, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's not what was happening. Some states were doing great under globalization. Some states were not. So there you got the electoral college that Trump in the states I need to win. Free trade killing us, and that's where I'm going to concentrate. Western Pennsylvania, again, Wisconsin. And the other thing people don't kind of realize, one of the reasons I think Trump won was Pennsylvania had a huge Syrian Arab population that was pro-Assad. Mm. I kind of mentioned it a few times in Allentown and in those places. Mm. Orthodox Christian Syrians, Catholic Syrians, Muslim Syrians, pro-Assad, at least compared to the rebels that McCain wanted to arm. So here's Trump saying, "I'll keep Assad around. I won't I think that got a lot of votes in Michigan and a lot of vote in Pennsylvania. That kind of mentions it they kind of mentioned in a couple of articles I read where you had pro-Assad Syrians going for Trump, and they kind of twisted that to make that sound how bad Trump is. But
of course.
But I think that was the razor margin that helped Trump win those states too. That they don't want us to concentrate on.
Yeah.
That's you want to do identity politics.
Yeah, they can't even tell us about that stuff that you just mentioned because it would imply that all of the Middle Eastern people are just automatically against whites or Republicans or Trump or whatever. That there's a diversity of opinion there, and they can't handle that.
No. You want your identity politics, liberals? There you got it. The pro-Assad identity politics. Do you like that? Fuck you. We fucked you up the ass good that way. And that's what it is. They don't want us to know that. They want to assume all Syrians are anti-Assad. That's not the fucking case. I know. I'm Greek Orthodox. My church is full with Syrian Orthodox Christians. I talk to them all the fucking time. They are pro-Assad 90% of the time. Even in those 10%, anti-rebels. So they might be pro-Assad, but they're anti. So that's literally 100% of Syrians in New York City that are Orthodox Christians. I know personally in my church, they're pro-Assad. So this is sort of a perspective you won't hear anywhere.
Well, another thing that they do is that they don't even explain to the American people what the differences are in all these ethnic groups, because then they would figure out for themselves what's going on and why some people support him. But they don't even want you to know that, it's just like there's a bunch of brown people over there and there's good ones and bad ones, and we should support the good ones and arm them, right? I mean, they want the ignorance to be there.
That's where my red pill happened in the 90s when the United States sided with Muslim against the Serbians. The Croatians made sense to me because even though the Croatians were literally neo-Nazis, like in the Ukraine, when Yugoslavia fell apart, the faction that took over Croatia was literally people who loved or identified with the Croatian government that existed under Hitler. So that bothered me a little bit, but in my head I'm like, Croatians are Catholic. The West is going to side with Catholics over Orthodox Christians who are with Russia.
Right.
So, but why are they siding with Muslims against Orthodox Christians? Is it because maybe because they're with Russians? The leader of Bosnia's Muslim, Izetbegovic, was in the Bosnian SS. He wrote a book which he was jailed for by the Yugoslavian communists, saying that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization and it should dominate non-Muslims, and we can't coexist with non-Muslims. That's why Bosnia needs to be free. So he went to jail for that. So he wasn't that he's sort of, like, hey, look at him, he's Muslim and he wants to be with other minority. It wasn't the case. He was a ethnic, what's the term? Ethnic nationalist, religious nationalist, just like all the other ones were.
Yeah.
He had multiple wives, which kept secret from us. All you have to do is look up my post under Destro in the Republic. That's all I was writing about. Why are we anti-Serbian and pro? Oh, you're pro-genocide. You're pro-Russia. I got that. I've been called pro-Russia since the 19, and it was nothing to do with that. It's sort of like a default mechanism somehow. And my red pill became, why is the United States, an Orthodox Christian, why is the United States foreign policy killing my people? They sided against the Serbs, Orthodox Christians. They sided with Turkey against the Greek Cypriots, Orthodox people. They sided with the Muslims. The Iraq invasion wiped out Orthodox Christians in Iraq. Yeah. There's Syria. They're wiping out Orthodox. If the rebels win, the Orthodox Christians in Syria are wiped out.
They're either going to be killed, pushed into the sea, or have to evacuate the country completely.
I don't know why. Maybe because Orthodox Christians are in that middle zone between the West and the East, and we're suffering.
They don't care. I don't think specifically that they're Orthodox. I think they are just extremely callous and just don't give a shit whether they live, die, tortured.
No, I think so too. I think we're seen as it's the old Anglo as in the empire way of seeing the world, where Russia is the competitor in the great game, and we as Orthodox Christians are identified with. We can't be loyal to the West because we identify more with Russia. Muslims are compliant. The British had Muslim empire, possessions. You could do whatever, but us Orthodox Christians, we seem a little contra everything. In other words, we're sort of like these people that we don't sort of play nice with the West. We're in the middle. They're not sure if we're pro-Russian or anti-Russia or anti. I don't know. In my head, I'm thinking that's when I see all this Russia, everybody being called Russia, all this Russia hysteria now. It reminds me of the bad old days when during the Cold War and now, if you were associated with Orthodox religion or Eastern European or whatever, you were identified with the potential enemy of the United States kind of thing. That's how I see it. I think because we were seen as possibly too loyal to Russia, they want to see a NATO, Orthodox NATO build up or that falls under Russia's sphere. Where we don't, so they kind of attack the Orthodox, sort of break them away. They don't want Orthodox nationalism. They don't want any of that. That's the whole point of the American empire overseas. They want to destroy any sort of potential counter to the United States, ideologically or religiously. I don't know. But for whatever reason, it seems to the American foreign policy since the 1990s has hit the Orthodox Christians really hard.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person. I'm pretty much atheist. I'm culturally Christian because it's the religion of my people, and so I kind of. But it's Christian. I mean, I try to make it like some sort of weird Christian Catholics. But we're seen as the other. We're seen as potentially not loyal to the American empire overseas. So I don't know. Maybe that's where my resistance came from. Maybe that's where my established roots are from. Maybe that's where my foreign policy is from. Who knows? That's how I see it.
Well, you've been paying attention to it a lot longer than me, and I guess having that. How much of your current viewpoint would you say was developed during the Balkan conflict versus this stuff we've got now?
I went from being pretty hardcore pro-NATO. I hate, communism is a threat to the Cold War is over. Oh my God, let's make Russia our ally.
Mm-hmm.
That's my worldview because oh my God, it's over. Right? Well, let's embrace.
Now we can be friends again, right?
Suddenly, NATO and Bush father said we're not going to expand NATO. Here comes Clinton, and he's expanding NATO. He's fighting Orthodox. He bombed Belgrade during Orthodox Easter, but he didn't He didn't bomb Baghdad during Ramadan.
Right.
So he's siding with jihadists. He's not Muslims. That doesn't bother me.
But like the worst of the worst.
He's siding with people that are literally jihadists. Some of the 9/11 hijackers are veterans of the Bosnian War. They were Al Qaeda fought in there. They were the muscle on the airplanes. Some of them, and fought in Bosnia. There was we know that for a fact now. That was kept hidden from because we don't want anything bad to happen with our relations to Muslims. We wanted to keep that secret. We wanted to make sure that the Serbs were always the bad guy, and whatnot. Downplay the massacres the Muslims are doing, and put light on what the Serbs are doing, and ignore what the Croatians are doing, kind of thing, that kind of stuff. So I think I was read on foreign policy. The Bosnian War is my awakening.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything up until then is based on that. Russia turning against the West. Yeltsin fell. People forget this, but Yeltsin was ousted from power, and Putin was put into power because the United States invaded Kosovo. Russia told Yeltsin, "Don't do this. Don't do this." They invaded Kosovo. They confronted Russian troops. We almost had World War III break out. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but Wesley Clark, general at the time, he ordered troops to shoot at the Russian troops that occupied a part of the Pristina airport, which is the airport in Kosovo, and the British general on the ground said, "Fuck you! I'm not going to start World War III because you ordered me to." That's how close we came. People kind of forget that. It came into light. I think one of the guys that was there is a British rock star, but he served in a British tech brigade there, and he kind of recounts this story where his commander refused the American orders to bomb the Russians, and that's when Putin came to power. And I think that's when Putin's animus came. Like, Putin tried to make accommodators, but he says something's up here, and they're pushing onto us. We have to stop them. But for some reason, America wants to expand, and they don't want to expand. They want to block us, and I think that's where the whole. It's been a very dangerous time in the world. And when Trump came along, it was a blessing in disguise. It saved us for a little bit. Who's going to take over from it? If you remember, Pence wanted to sound just like any neocon when it came to Russia.
Yeah.
So he wanted to bomb Syria. He wanted all that shit. Trump is the only one standing and saying no. And if there's a God, I'm grateful to that. And for that reason alone, I will defend Trump, fight for him. I send him money. I sent the maximum amount you can contribute to a politician. I've done all that, all because of that. And it is Russian related. I don't want war with Russia. I don't want World War III. I don't like neocons, and I don't like the establishment. And that's where I think it comes from. I think we're being lied to in terms of foreign policy. And maybe because I'm an immigrant, and because identity politics, that gives me some cachet, that I'm an immigrant. I played that out to the hilt, and I think that's where whatever thing I'm scared about me, I think that's what came from that.
Well, I can't put you out there enough, so I'm going to try to make sure the video gets seen by as many people as I can. And I think this is probably a good note to end it on. Thank you for your time.
That was a pleasure.
We'll have to do it again.
I'm always available, but you have to sit with a sock on my head and wear it for a fucking reason.
Maybe we can get Lennon in here too.
I've been trying to reach him. I've been a runner all my life, but my knees were shot, and so they started giving me. I guess I'm a Trump supporter now because they're giving me oxycodone.
Oh yeah, you got
hydrocodone. I'm a Trump supporter now. I'm high.
You got the opioid addiction.
I got
all right.
addiction happening. So I have. I used to sleep maybe an hour a day for years. I mean, I was a heavy insomniac. Suddenly, I take these pills. I'm sleeping like a baby. So it was that's why I think one of the reasons people thought I might be Russian is I was tweeting 24 hours a day, nonstop. Because I don't sleep. I just didn't. I'm with my phone, tweeting nonstop because I couldn't sleep. But now with this with these codone pills, I'm out like light. Who knew heroin was such a sleep aid? Yeah, I guess. I love heroin now.
You just need to get an opium pipe and a cat to put on your chest, and lay down, and then you'll be set, right?
It's close, but I kind of. So I've been sleeping regularly now. I mean, we did the interview with Lennon like 2:00 in the morning. I think he's on West Coast or something.
Yeah.
But I was like awake for days and stuff. But that's kind of. I haven't been able to get in touch with him, so I hope he contacts me, and I'd love to do a interview with him and you both.
Cool. Yeah, I'll reach out to him, see if I can get a hold of him. I have seen him posting much recently, but we'll
they banned him. They banned him too.
Oh, he's done. He's off there now for good.
I think so. I think they banned him. He's on his second account. Maybe that's gone too.
Yeah.
Is your account still up on Twitter?
I mean, it's there. I refuse to delete the tweet that they said was objectionable. So they gave me a 12-hour ban. They told me I had to delete it, and I haven't deleted it, and it's been two weeks. I mean, I can't bring myself to bend to their will if it's totally illegitimate. So my account's still there, but I'm not using it.
As soon as you delete it, you're banned because of that.
Maybe. I might be shadow banned for sure, right?
Fuck.
Because I blew up their support staff with repeated, you tell me what I did wrong, identify what I actually did, and they refused to do it. So if they didn't like me before, they certainly don't like me now.
What was the tweet?
Meek Mill, that's who it was. So Meek Mill, he got a criminal charge 7 years ago, and they put him on probation. And every single time he's almost done with probation, he pulls a gun on somebody or beats somebody up or something. And Jay-Z and some other people, I guess, were trying to do a social campaign to get his sentence reduced because they said this is.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, that's real. Yeah.
I mean, banned. They wanted you to do it because of that.
Well, so I tweeted at them and I said this guy either needs to learn how not do crimes or take his licks or just finish his probation period without doing something else. And then they said that I was either promoting violence or racial discrimination or some kind of stuff, and so that's what they suspended me for. So I couldn't deal with it.
Unbelievable, man. It just, how is Twitter staying in business with this? I don't know. I think it's the end for Twitter. I really do. But in the end, because again, I think if you go on Gab, you'll find an article where some guy says we have to redo how Twitter is, and I think deep down inside they think they control us through the Twitter message or something, and if we fight back against the orthodoxy, we need to be destroyed or shut down or whatever. I think that's the underlying. If you use that filter, it won't steer you wrong. If whatever's happening in terms of social media, if it's going against the narrative, it's for that.
Yeah, their idea of you, I think, would be for you to be subscribed to Hillary Clinton, and you get the tweets that she sends you, and then you get some advertisements from Mercedes or BMW or some company promoting Coca-Cola or whatever, and that's it. That's all it is. And you tweet your aunt, she says happy birthday. That's the end, right? That's all Twitter's for.
That's it. That's it. They want us to tweet about cat videos, and that's it.
Right.
Which is why Russia's videos scare the shit out of them.
Yeah.
For some fucking thing. I don't know. Man, it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too, finally.
All right.
Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time.
All right, I'll forward to you posting.
Thanks.
All right.